Hello everyone, I welcome you to the first video of Python programming. In this videos, we'll be covering from basics to advanced. We'll be covering various topics from the basics to some advanced things, and we'll be covering some of the libraries also like NumPy, Pandas and Matplotlib and several things which we are going to cover. So first up, let's see what we'll be going to cover in this entire session. So the first thing we will be looking towards the basics, whatever the basic things like operating systems and the compiler versus interpreter, what we are using in Python. We will be using interpreter rather than compiler because this Python is a basically interpreted language. So we will be covering about the basics related to the Python programming, and then we will be looking to the first things, variables. In variables, you know what are the rules we will be going to declare, how we will be going to declare a variable, and also what are the rules and regulations, what to do and what not to do in this variable kind of things. And then we will be covering with conditional statements like if else ladder and elif. We will be covering some of the interesting topics in this Python. Then we will be looking into the loops like for and while. We don't have do while here in Python. Compared to C, we have do while loop, but here in Python we don't have that do while loop. So we'll be covering into the loops, and then we'll be going to functions and other things, and also we'll be looking deeper into the data structures in Python like lists, tuples and dictionaries and sets. So in those concepts we will be covering a lot of things about the functionalities of the list and tuple, differences and other examples like we'll be doing several data structure operations in Python using those default things which we have in Python. And then we'll be also covering some advanced concepts like libraries. We have several libraries in Python, so we'll be covering several libraries like NumPy and Pandas as we discussed earlier. So the major focus in this Python tutorial is to master the Python from basics to advanced. So I hope it's very much interesting to cover a lot more. And then let us discuss what are the general benefits of Python. Python benefits, we have to know what are the things we need to cover in Python. So without a delay, let's get started with the benefits of Python. So Python is basically easy to read and simpler to modify and versatile programming language. So the syntaxes which we will be seeing in Python is very simple, and it is readable also. It is very much simple as compared to other programming languages like Java. So it is easy to write and read, and it is a very beginner friendly programming language compared to me. And it is used in web development. Not only in web development, it is also in data analysis and data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning and many more. We can use Python in various fields. It can be as a full stack. As we discussed earlier, Python is very much useful in each and every domain. Even in the automation sector also we'll be using Python very much. And the Python makes ease because of its standard library. The library support in Python is very much useful to us, and also the community support. What community supports in the sense, the developers who are working on Python programming languages are very much higher compared to other programming language. So if you encounter any error or any unclear things in Python, if you go to the community or if you want to discuss with any other persons who are online, you can easily collaborate with them, and also they can solve your doubts. And not only doubts, there are several things which you can also deliver in Python. So I think Python will be the best programming language ever for a beginner to start with. And also now we'll be going to look into the Python differences, because Python, as we discussed earlier, it is an interpreted language. And what is the difference between an interpreter and compiler? We know that C is a compiled language. That means whatever code we are writing, it will be compiled by us. And whereas in Python, it is done by the interpreter. What are the differences between compiler and interpreter? Basically, the compiler, what it does is, if we write any code, let's assume you have written a 1 to 10 lines of code. If you see that code, the compiler, what it does is, at every stage, interpreter and compiler are the translators. It translates the programming language into the machine code, that is zeros and ones. That's it, right? So compiler compiles the entire source code into one and it converts into an intermediate file, whereas interpreter is not same, because interpreter itself converts each and every line. It reads line by line. Each and every line will be checked by the interpreter and then it will be moved to the other line. So the major difference comes here. Compiler compiles the entire program, entire source code, and it converts into the intermediate file. An intermediate file will be converted and will be displayed internally, whereas in the place of interpreter we don't see any intermediate files. Directly the entire source code will be converted into the machine code, but the intermediate files are not generated here. So the line by line things will be done by the interpreter, whereas the entire source code will be compiled by the compiler. So that is the sort of difference between these two. And as we said earlier, compiler or interpreter, both are the translators which translates the source code into machine code, that is zeros and ones. Then as we discussed, it checks by line, and the performance is low compared to the compiler, because you can see the third point here, performance is low compared to the compiler. Why do we call that? Because the interpreter itself checking each and every line in the code, whereas the compiler compiling the entire code. So the time delay and the utilization of the memory increases here in the case of interpreter. So that's why the performance is low compared to the compiler, but not at all the cases. So we'll be covering those cases also in the further sessions. And also the major important thing, that is platform independent. Platform independent feature is the best thing in the interpreter. Let's discuss about this platform independency. What does it mean? If you are writing any program in Java or any, like C, let's take C, it is a compiled language, right? So if you write any program in C on Windows operating system, it can be the source code which is converted into the machine code. That binary file can be only checked only on the operating system, the same operating system, that is Windows. If you are running a C program on Mac, the intermediate or binary file which is created can be only compiled over the other Mac systems. Not if you are doing on the Linux, it will be only converted or compiled only on the Linux systems, but not in the case of interpreter, because interpreter just directly converts the code into the machine code. So there will be no place of operating system to intervene with. So it is platform independent. So the interpreter, whatever code you have written in Python, can be run anywhere, entire operating systems in like Windows, whether it may be your Mac or even the Linux operating system or even your parent OS. So it is platform independent. It is very much important point for the interview purpose. And finally, what we are going to looking into the Python, we have discussed about the basic things. So in the upcoming sessions we'll be covering lot more things in Python. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe the channel and share with your friends, and thanks for watching.